Sunday school class officially open under the auspices of love, to peace, freedom, and justice, and the principles from now on and perpetually, infinitely ours. Islam, Moorish America's here, there, and everywhere. Islam, Islam, Islam. I'll be your host and instructor for the evening. My name is Dr. Elder Pleasant Bay. I'm the Grand National Chairman of Moorish America, and I want to give honor also to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, as well as our governing staff, our Grand Sheikh, our Assistant Grand Sheikhs, our Grand Body, executives, Moorish citizens here, there, and everywhere, those who are conscious of our mission, and those who have yet to come. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a tremendous class set aside for us this evening, and we'll be featuring chapter 4, and which we will now call before the floor our Grand National Secretary to read to us the death and burial of Elizabeth Messino's lesson, The Ministry of Death, chapter 4, and our Secretary of Moorish Holy Quran. We also will be coming from the memorandum dealing with the United Nations and the Moorish American plight, as the Noble Drew Ali has instructed us to link ourselves with the nations of the earth. He repeated this time and time and time again in all of his questionnaires, his literatures, his Constitution, and Act 6, so we can be recognized by the nations of the earth. He's constantly reminding us that we are a people, and with that, you must be recognized as such. This is our goal. It will not be complete until we complete our job. That's what we got to do. Be recognized. Islam. So, listen, Sister Secretary, are you there?
Sure.
Okay, what I want you to do is to read before the student body Act 4 so we can get it on, okay?
Yes, sir. Brother Chairman.
Chapter 4.
Let's all mourn. First of all, I want to rise, giving all praises to our Father God Allah, giving a most special honor to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and times, giving honor to our Moorish American government, all of our officials, staff, muftis, swift angels, divine ministers, and most especially our Moorish citizens, giving honor to whom honor is due. Death and burial of Elizabeth, Messino's lesson, the ministry of death. When John was 12 years old, his mother died, and neighbors laid her body in a tomb among her kindred in the Hebron burying ground and near Zacharias' tomb. And John was deeply grieved. He wept. Messino said, "It is not well to weep because of death. Death is no enemy of man. It is a friend who, when the work of life is done, just cuts the cord that binds the human boat to earth, that it may sail on smoother seas." No language can describe a mother's worth, and yours was tried and true. But she was not called hence until her tasks were done. The calls of death are always for the best, for we are solving problems there as well as here, and one is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best. It is selfishness that makes one wish to call again to earth departed souls. And let your mother rest in peace. Just let her noble life be strength and inspiration unto you. A crisis in your life has come, and you must have a clear conception of the work that you are called to do. The sages of the ages call you harbinger. The prophets look to you and say, "He is Elijah, come again." Your mission here is that of a harbinger, where you will go before the Messiah's face to pave his way and make the people ready to receive their king. This readiness, this purity of heart, none but the pure in heart can recognize the king. To teach men to be pure in heart, you must yourself be pure in heart and word and deed. In infancy the vow for you was made, and you became a Nazarite. The razor shall not touch your face or head, and you shall not taste wine or fiery drinks. Men need a pattern for their lives. They love to follow, not to lead. The man who stands upon the corners of the path and points the way, but does not go, is just a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same. The teacher treads the way on every span of ground. ground he leaves his footprints clearly cut, which all can see and be assured that he, their master, went that way. Men comprehend the inner life by what they see and do. They come to Allah through ceremonies and forms. And when they would make men know that sins are washed away by purity in life, a rite symbolic may be introduced. In water, wash the bodies of the people who would turn away from sin and strive for purity in life. This rite of cleansing is a preparation rite, and they who thus are cleansed comprise the temple of purity. And you shall say, you men of Israel, hear, reform and wash, become the sons of purity, and you shall be forgiven. This rite of cleansing and this temple are but symbolic of the soul, which does not come with outward show, but is the temple within. Now you may never point the way and tell the multitudes to do what you have never done, but you must go before and show the way. You are to teach that men must wash, so you must lead the way. Your body must be washed, symbolic of the cleansing of the soul. John said, why need I wait? May I not go at once and wash? Matheno said, this well. And they went down to the Jordan ford, and east of Jericho, just where the host of Israel crossed when first they entered Canaan. They tarried for a time. Matheno taught the harbinger, and he explained to him the inner meaning of the cleansing rite, and how to wash himself, and how to wash the multitude. And in the river Jordan, John was washed. Then they returned unto the wilderness. Now in Angedi's hills, Matheno's work was done, and he and John went down to Egypt. They rested until they reached the temple of Saqqara in the valley of the Nile. For many years, Matheno was a master in this temple of the brotherhood. And when he told about the life of John and of his mission to the sons of men, the Hierophant with joy received the harbinger, and he was called Brother Nazarite. For 18 years, John lived and wrought within these temple gates, and here he conquered self, became a mastermind, and learned the duties of the harbinger. Islam?
Islam, alhamdulillah. Certainly appreciate that great reading, Sister Secretary. Islam Wars, want to welcome everyone again to our National Sunday School class. And what we're here to do, it is contingent upon the culture and the dignity of every people to teach themselves. And this is one of the divine instructions that Noble Dwali has placed upon us as well. It's up to the Moorish Americans to teach Moorish Americans how to be Moorish Americans. No one else can do that for us. So running out the United States courts and other things is not going to get the job done. It's not going to help you be you. So what we have to do, we have to look at those lessons and those things that was brought to us, revealed to us through the seventh angel, Noble Dwali himself, who went all the way, although he was born in the state of North Carolina, by the time he was 16 years of age, those who thought he was a little Negro boy found himself in Egypt. And he was there for 10 years. By the time he came back, he was noteworthy and recognized by the heads of all countries as the last prophet in these days and times. We want to also acknowledge the fact that Noble Dwali did not leave a stone unturned. He brought us everything that we need in order for us to save ourselves. But we must do it, save ourselves, that is. We must do that as a people. There is no other way to get the job done. We cannot do this being groups, organizations, little fraternal orders, and anything else that divides the people. This will be in the latter portion of our class today. We'll be going back into our memorandum, which is deal with the United Nations, and our ultimate flight soon to be returned to the UN. Prior to that, we must make preparations, and that's what these classes, these conference call classes, all of us. Hold on a second, please. All right. This week's subject chapter, chapter 4, Death and Burial of Elizabeth, dealing with Massino's lesson. The one thing about Massino, if you recall more, this is also one of the ancient sages. When the sages later gathered, I guess about maybe 18 years after this particular event took place, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe about 24 years, 23 years took place, then you find that the sages had gathered again, and in this great gathering, you find that always in Egypt, that here Massino was found again, and he was again teaching the sacred lessons. There's many of the rituals that later was pronounced or performed by what is called the Jews to this day. And there's other cultures that descended through the lineage of Abraham that also, as well as the Muslims, as they call themselves, as well as these are those who draw their strength and their powers from the lessons of the knowledge of the self, the God and man, that derived and was taught, educated, that is, in Egypt. And this is what these lessons here have to do. You can have many, many chapters. A lot of them will shy away from the teachers of Moorish science today because they say, well, that part is religious. We don't want nothing to do with that. And that's mainly because they've had such a bad taste of what they call religion put in their minds under the West, under the auspices of the cross, and not to mention a few crescent moons, no matter what quarter they may have been in. And so as a result of that, most of the Moors today, they don't want to hear nothing about religion. That's all well and good, but the thing about it is, when you get down to the facts, or let's say the truth of the matter, you must recognize who made you. And when you look at it and see how wonderfully you are made, how fearfully you are made, how you are really put together, and we just recently left chapter 1, showing you step by step exactly how the Spirit God took on the first a soul, meaning the actions being thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, remembrance, and how even this, when it slowed down even to a lower manifest, it took in a form that we all can recognize, that we can see with the carnal eyes called the garb of flesh. So there are 3 master stages in which this growth took place, or if you will, the growth downward, okay, or recognized to us as the fall. Well, right now, let's look at these chapters. If you notice, the majority of these chapters are dealing with the life and teachings of Yehoshua. A lot of people call him Jesus here in the West. These chapters all give a significant time, places, and dates, as well as the events. But all of them have to do with some level of education. And with this in mind, this also lets you know exactly what it was that Noble Drew Ali himself brought back to us when he spent his 10 years in Egypt as a boy and growing into a full-grown, not just a man, but he went beyond that. He came back as a mastermind. He came back as a holy prophet, okay? And not only that, but he had reached the highest level that Egypt had to offer, not just being a prophet, but an angel also. So with this in mind, we have to realize that whatever Noble Drew Ali has done, we too have that same capability. And when you look at these chapters, they always designate the time and the people and what the people had to do. But we have been so, should I say, miseducated, misled here in the West, that oftentimes we do not realize the value of these lessons, exactly what they are to us. For example, at the very first ayat, it says when John was 12 years old, with Yahya, let's call him by the name as it was, when Yahya was 12 years old, it was then that Elizabeth, that his mother passed, okay? Well, the thing about it is, let's look at how old John was, okay? Because this is the most important. We're not negating his mother's death, because this is the one chapter that makes you be able to rise above the death, because here in the West, we've often been caught up, and our beloved sister Whitney Houston, who passed yesterday. With all due respect, we here at the table, we understand that it is not so much as the cause of death. Everyone wants to know, how did she die? The same thing with Martino's mother. The cause, everybody caught up on the cause of death. Everyone wants to know, was it a Mack truck, an airplane, was it a gunshot, bow and arrow, what, some kind of disease, did a rock fall out the sky, what happened, and they're looking for the causes of death. But with this lesson here, it lets you know that wise people do not pay attention to the causes of death, but they look for the cause. They know that every time death shows up, it's not an enemy of man, but it addresses it is there for a particular cause. It's answering a call. In other words, when it's time for death to come to separate the cord, that's what it do. Okay, it doesn't matter what stage it may be in, you see it every day. So it should not be looked at as some kind of strange object that you don't understand. Okay? Every living thing, or for that matter, everything that man makes that begins with time, it's got a time that's going to end. So that means that's when it dies. Okay? A light bulb has got a lifetime. It's going to die sooner or later. And when it do, it won't light the bulb no more. Okay? Just to say the same that when you look at the age, this lets you know exactly how it is. And I want you to start looking at things, these lessons more from a national perspective. We have to stop looking at the individual characters as just those characters, but begin to look at ourselves as what it is, the possibilities of man that we ourselves must do. Like I said earlier, everything that Noble Dwell is done and be recognized by the nations of the earth, we too, as a people, must do the same exact thing. He did not ask us to do something that he himself has not already done. Okay? So, when you look at this age of this young brother, John, he was only 12 years old, but this is a mystic number. When you deal with the number 12, you're dealing with the number of government. He had reached a stage in his life, an age in his life, when he's able to govern conditions, okay? Meaning that he was now able to take on the responsibility of being able to chart his own course, assume his own reasoning, and deal with his own intent and interest, okay? In other words, is at this age, that we, people of Africa, African descent, has always entered into adulthood, okay? Around and about the age of 12, we've always had certain little rituals that we go through for little brothers to go into manhood at the age of 12, sisters to go into womanhood. That's when it begins to start developing those areas that will take them into adulthood that only the adults can do, okay? When it comes down to reproduction, conception, these kind of things, not only that, but these things also bring on a psychic, a mental responsibility, meaning that not only can you are able to produce children, but now you're also able to foresee and how to protect, how to guide them and instruct them so that they themselves can learn to be what? Adults. Okay? You're not going to be a child always. Like so, we are not going to be a nationless people always. Okay? So when looking at this young age, also look at the Moorish Americans as a young nation. Okay? We have a mighty, mighty mission upon our hands. So let's go into the chapter a little bit before we go into the UN, okay? When John was 12 years old, his mother died, and neighbors laid her body in the tomb amongst the kindred, okay? So in other words, people there knew about who the kindred people were, the fathers, the cousins, grandfathers, etc., okay? And the burial ground, which was set aside for that special tribe or family, okay, were not unknown. And in fact, one of the earlier relatives, Zacharias, was also there, all right? John, though he was deeply grieved, you got to remember that it was Martino who was already a mastermind. He was one of the ancient sages that was there when the seven sages met in Heliopolis and throughout the construction halls throughout Egypt, you find that Matheno was one of the main sages that was able to meet there, and he became one of the master teachers for Yahya, or John, if you will. Okay, the same way that Elihu became the master instructor for Yehoshua. Okay, so the first thing that Matheno let him know, said, look, it's not well to weep because of death. He didn't say that it won't be good to cry. He just said, but it's not good to cry because of death. Because when you do that, you're bringing about a certain ether that you're wishing back to earth departed souls. He let him know that, look, death is no enemy of man. Okay? And that it also let you know that death actually is a friend, whom when the life work is done, then it just cuts the cord that binds the human boat to earth, that it may sail on smoother seas. So then you have to ask yourself the question, Moors, all right? Number one, how come death is not an enemy? Because everybody else is scared of it, who I ever run into. They're scared to death. Okay, so the thing about it is, the reason why you're scared is because you're always afraid of things that you don't know anything about. This is one of the first learn in the world of Islam. The first lesson that you learn is how not to fear death. You learn the ministry of death. First lesson that you learn, which is one of the very first lessons, the ancient lesson of Egypt as well, okay? So it's not strange that you would get these lessons in the world of Islam as well, okay? And if you notice, the first thing a Muslim says, well, Allah Akbar, let it be. Come on with it, okay? And they go on and they're not afraid anymore. But anyway, when death shows, it doesn't matter whether it's dealing with the time that it takes an apple to ripen on a tree. It doesn't matter whether it takes the time for a limb to fall, or whatever the case may be, an egg to develop, a chicken to hatch. Whenever death shows, okay, then that is a call. A certain call is time, okay? And within that brief second or brief time, death does this thing. Now, you must look at death just like you would any other angel. An angel is one who do not go contrary to the order, contrary to instructions, okay? Oftentimes you've heard of death being called the death angel, okay? And the reason why it says that is because death don't have any choice but to do what death do, okay? If you send death like rain itself is an angel, and it would only fall when instructed. When it comes time for rain to fall, the rain don't decide, well, no, I'm not going to fall on that house. The roof is dirty. Or I'm not going to fall on that car. Somebody should have watched it last week, and it just fall on the ground around it or fall. I don't want to fall on that asphalt. I'm going to fall on the grass. No, rain don't make that decision. The rain will fall on the desert. It will fall on the forest alike. It doesn't matter. And it has power in every drop. But rain does not make the determination as to where it's going to fall. It'll fall on the desert just as quick as it will the forest. It doesn't make any difference to the rain. Its job is to fall, and whatever it's got to do when it falls, it do that. Okay? If it's got to evaporate, it do that too. Okay? So death is the same way. Any angel is the same way. That's the reason why I want to give honor to swift angels. Swift angels don't make decisions. I don't know about that order, but no. If Allah tell an angel what to do, that's what it do. Okay? So death is no different than any other angel. What death do, it cuts the cord. It separates that human life, that carnal life, from anything else as we know it. Okay, so they can go on and do what else it's got to do. But that part right there, it don't happen no more. Okay? That's what death does. So with this special chapter, it was explained to Yahya that when the life of work is done, and you must admit, this is an entirely matter. What is life spent to build? As far as we're concerned, it's designed to deal with the temple of perfected man. That's what we do with our life. We build our temple, perfecting ourselves as God. Now, when you reach a certain level, or you have not reached a certain level, when death comes, the call is always for the best. See you when okay? So you can solve the problem somewhere else. So he goes on to let the brother know that no language can describe his mother's worth, and yours is tried and true. But she was not called hence until her task was done. In other words, her work was complete. As far as he was concerned, now we might say, well, she left mighty early. Good gracious, John was over 12 years old. She still, no, but John was what? He was a young man at this time. Okay? She has served her purpose well. She brought him up for 12 years, brought him into the world, and brought him up for 12 years, gave him everything he needed. Okay? Including taking him, because he wasn't born in Egypt, but that's where he was now. Okay? The cause of death are always for the best, for we are solving problems there as well as here. So when you ask a question about that, when it comes to us, we have that situation to consider. If you think for 1 minute that you can go out here and do all this hating and player hating on people and talking about the people that don't want to be a nation of people in buckets, okay, and you think that once you hump the ground that you're going to have a smile on the next plane, you forget about it. It ain't going to happen that way, okay? The same problem that you were creating here, now you're going to have to deal with them problems, but now guess what? You will not have the flesh to hide behind. It won't have no 8 hours of sleep to hide behind, okay? You won't have, well, no school or job to hide behind. You won't have the computers to hide behind and Facebook. None of that. You got nowhere to hide, no rock, no hiding place. Now it's you and all your negative thinking, because that's what is going to happen on the plane of soul. It's you and your thoughts. And those thoughts that you have not mastered, that you have not, become victorious over, those things that you have not conquered, you will have to conquer them there. And that's where, if you have, obviously, you have not found yourself on this plane while you was in human flesh, because you down here raise and yell, okay? So obviously you ain't there find yourself. So death shows up. Okay, so it was the Mack truck. Okay, but nevertheless, you want to find yourself on the next plane. Now what you got to deal with now is your negative thinking. Brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so that you despise and you hate so much, and the relatives you carry so much deceitful and hatred and hypocrisy and envy and jealousy. Aha. But all these are your demons. And you're going to have to deal with them by themselves on the next plane. Okay? That's the reason why we have these lessons, so that you will not be playing games on the thing. Every time you see another mo, you ought to be jumping for short, like the prophets say, okay? Because you know what it is that mo has got to go through. Anyway, going on to the next level, I want to isolate ayat 5 here, saying that the cause of death are always for the best, for we are solving problems there as well as here. And one is sure to find himself where he has solved his problem best. And you will. There is no failure for that human soul that you're going to have to deal with after you leave the body. Either way, you're going to have to master that. Why? Because within that soul is what? God.
Wow.
You got to remember who made you. And you're not, and Allah don't live in no dirty house, so that means you're going to have to get rid of all that dirt. That ain't nothing but the soul of soul. Dirt. Your dirty thinking. You got to get rid of it, okay? So I want you to hold that ayat 5, because we'll be back to that in our dealing with our memorandum, okay? Anyway, it is selfless to make one wish to call again to earth departed soul. Nothing but pure selfishness. Now, most of you probably came up like I did, come up through the church or the Western way of saying at funerals, and people falling all out, passing out, fall all in the casket and things, and holding up people trying to, please don't leave me, come back with me, and this kind of thing. Mostly because they didn't do what they're supposed to do while the person was alive, okay? But we won't get into that. That's another matter. The thing about it is, when they are down there calling back to earth, departed souls, don't you know that these other departed souls, they hear them? Because remember, even in the hospital, the way that you're trained is that the last sense to go is not the sense of taste or smell, it's the sense of hearing. That's the last one to go. That's what they ask, well, what's the name? What y'all call him? You know, and before they put that shocker on his chest, they start calling, come on here, you know, Shibuti, or whatever the name may be, okay? So anyway, this is called the sense of hearing is the last to go. So you there calling, come on back, mama, come back, mama. But what you're doing, that's a selfish thing. What you want her back here for? Oh, you want her to feed you. You want her to take care of you. You want her to look after you. You want to say, I'm sorry, Mom, for what I didn't do. And all this other kind of stuff. That's selfishness. That's selfishness, okay? So, but that's where we come up in the West. That's the way we were told to act at funerals and whenever people pass from, especially people close to us, that's where we're taught to act, okay? So the Latino let us say, look, you let your mother rest in peace and let her noble life be a strength and inspiration unto you, okay? Meanwhile, there's a crisis in your life. You're 12 years old. Can you imagine if somebody tells you, look, you got a crisis? You know what the crisis is? You're going into adulthood now. You got to take on responsibilities now. That's a crisis, which means that there is going from one level to another level. That's the crisis. He's going from a boy into manhood. He's going from the time that his mother had to raise him and be responsible for him to now he's got to be responsible for his own thinking, okay? So this is a crisis that came into his life. And Mathino let him know, say, look, a crisis in your life has come, okay? And you must have a clear conception of the work that you are called to do. So if you're over there signifying crying mama and worrying her because you're selfish self, then you have not only neglected your present concern, but how are you going to perfect yourself? And you're all over there in mama's grave, okay? The thing about it is that having this clear conception, this is what it is that we have been trying to get the Moorish Americans and to do for the longest time. More, look, being a member of an organization, that's not a clear conception, okay? A Moorish American is not a member of an organization. We'll be getting into the NGO situation in a minute, okay? A Moorish American is a free national name. You need to get a clear conception, because if you don't, you won't realize that a Moorish American is also a citizen of a government belonging to a nation of people. And that means not only that, but you also not recognized as anything or anybody with any substance, no sovereignty, no nothing that anybody's bound to respect until you first recognize yourself. Okay? You've got to have a clear conception as to what a Moorish American is. It's just that simple, brothers and sisters. Look, this is not just, bashing and all that. We're talking about teaching. The Bible says we are here to teach. Okay? If someone else don't teach you, that you got to have a clear conception about what a Moorish American is somebody walking down the street on Friday. Okay, going to the temple on Sunday for a couple of hours. This is what they call it, Sunday go to meet Moors, or Friday temple Moors. No, you're talking about what's a Chinese? You can wait for a Chinese to show up in a dojo. That's the only time you're gonna see a Chinese. What is that, a dojo? I don't think so. Oh, maybe in the Chinese jank cooking you some food or something. That's all the Chinese is there. No. Chinese is the Chinese from the time they are conceived, from the womb to the tomb, okay? That's the Chinese. So a Moorish American is the same. You cannot get around being a Moorish American, okay? You are today who your forefathers were yesterday, but you've got to consider the work that a Moorish American is called to do. You got a job on you that other people don't have. Number one, most of the people already know who they are. Okay? You can't go to China right now and find their Chinese that don't know he's a Chinese. Okay? Unless he just mentally ain't there. But at least he's looking like one anyway. The thing about it is that you still have to have a clear conception, okay? So, And 9 it said, the sage of the age call you harbinger. The prophet look to you and say, he is Elijah, come again. Well, when you get to talk about Elijah, well, that comes out of the Old Testament through the old Greek demonstration when it comes down to Elijah. Well, actually it's a Hebrew word that it transliterates into who's God or the Lord is God. When you speak about Elijah, he was during the time of Elijah. He was the first one that he bucked. He just straight up said, "Look, what y'all doing? It ain't right." And he was the one that introduced the ritual about the cleansing rite. Okay, so they said no, but you got to remember, even at that, where did he learn it from? Elijah was under the teachings of the ancient Comitians, the Egyptians. This is where he got the teachings from. Okay. So when it comes down to the theocratic governments, this is where they learned it from. But anyway, we'll go into that a little more in a week because this is a very extensive thing dealing with Elijah. But anyway, your mission here is that of Harder. For you will go before the Messiah's face and pave his way, speaking about Yehoshua, okay? And make the people ready, okay? This is what it is this is why we have conference calls. We're here to make the people ready. If you think the only one listening to these conference calls that we have almost 7 days a week now, if you think for 1 minute that we're the only one listening to the conference call, well, technology is better than that, okay? All you got to do is put the name B&L on your name or anything else for that matter, and your phone is tapped, okay? So we're not the only ones that listen to this class. But the thing about it is, we have to make the people ready, okay? And make them ready to receive the coming of the Moorish American as a nation of people. We got to make them ready to receive the last prophet in these days and time. Don't you know that the world has been without a prophet almost 2,000 years now? Since Muhammad, he was the last major prophet. Prior to the advent of Noble Drew Ali, and he came 5 times greater than Muhammad and the rest of them. Okay? But you won't be able to tell it until the people step up to the plate. Okay? Now, the thing about it is that this readiness, that we say get the people ready, this readiness is purity of heart. That's the kind of readiness it is, okay? None but the pure in heart can recognize Noble Drew Ali. If you wonder about that more, and I know I'm not talking to strangers, many of us on this line right now will say, well, how in the world can Noble Drew Ali bring all these teachings, and I haven't even heard this much about Noble Drew Ali? It just don't make sense. How could he be the one? What about everybody else? What do they bring? Okay, what about Elijah Muhammad, Daddy Grace, Father Divine, and you just go on up and down the ladder, Malachi York L, and the Great Seal, Washington, just up and down the ladder. Nobody mentions Noble Drew Ali. Nobody mentions Drew Ali. Why is that? Well, it wasn't for Drew Ali, would nobody be saying nothing today about nothing. Okay? There wouldn't be nobody talking about no nationhood. There wouldn't be talking about no flags, including the Moroccan flag. And then you got a lot of Moors waving that flag too. I don't know why, but they're just waving it. Okay? And but wouldn't nobody be talking about my national name? I'm Washington. I'm a Hebrew national. I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I'm Washington. No, would nobody be talking like that? You'd be exactly what the Europeans said you were, and you wouldn't know nothing else. The Europeans said that you was Negro, black, and color on your birth certificate. He sealed it that way from the time you was born. When you found out your mother was putting your birth certificate in the Bible, wrote your name in the first thing in the Bible, the whole family tree, and that's all you knew, little Negro child. Okay, but something has brought a purity of heart. Some system has come around that start cleansing out the heart, cleaning out a lot of that falsehood, that negativity, them lies. Something start purifying the hearts and the minds of the people. Who was that? Who was that brought the truth about your true identity? Who was it said you was Moorish America before anyone else said you was anything else other than a Negro? Okay? And who was that came into place and said you are to teach man to be pure in that you yourself must be pure in heart before you can teach it. Who was that taught that? Let me see. Wasn't that Acts 7? That all Moorish America must keep their hearts and minds pure? Lesson sound familiar, Moors? In infancy, the vow for you was made that you will become a Nazarite. Now, Moors, there is a lot of difference between a Nazarite and a Nazarene, okay? A Nazarite is one who goes through a ritual, okay? An ancient old Hebrew ritual, where a lot of Jews, they still do it, but they learn in Egypt anyway. And it was just a matter, really, of a baptism rite, okay, a matter of purification thing. And I take several little oaths and things, you know. You had to abstain from drinking wine and strong drinks and things like that. You had to refrain from cutting the hair. They didn't play that. No, you couldn't cut your hair, all right? And you had to avoid contact with the dead. Okay? Those were the three things that you had to become a Nazarite. And that was like a ritual, an oath that you had to take to join. It was like a Nazarite was like a order, a secret order, okay? And Egypt was full of them, okay? Whether, depending on what degrees you had to learn, a Nazarite was one of the ones that, see, a Nazarene is a birth name. You know, this descendant of Nazareth, okay? The born, you know, the Nazarene. Well, you can deal with that. You can trace your genealogy, but a Nazarite, that's a brotherhood, okay? And that's a little different order. It says a brotherhood, but they ain't necessarily confined to brothers. It was the cleansing rite. Anyway, we'll get into that. So he goes on, Messina goes on to explain to her, like, the razor should not touch your face or head, and you should not taste wine or fiery drink. He was introducing him to taking the oath and to becoming a Nazarite. Okay? And bear in mind now, how old is he? 12. Now, according to the sister here in the West, you got to be, what, 21 before you can go into the orders. All right? In fact, they tell you that on your driver, like, you got to be 21 before you become a man. Well, I don't know what happened to the Moors, because they've been calling them boys ever since, okay? So, let's see. Anyway, getting back to the point. The man who stands upon the corner of the way just points away, but does not go, he's just a pointer, okay? And a block of wood can do the same. The prophet let you know more that you got two kinds of leaders in this world. You got those that run their mouth and talk about people and point away to all kinds of things, but they themselves are not going that way. You ever run to one of them leaders that, come on over here, because that brother, he ain't talking about nothing. Come on over here. But meanwhile, he ain't got no way to lead you to. But he's going to tell you to come on, and he's going to talk bad about wherever you was at. But, man, just come on and follow me. In other words, when you look, he ain't been nowhere. So since he ain't been there, he's just a pointer. Okay? He ain't been to the UN. He ain't been to the nations. He ain't been to the lesson and studied nothing about sovereignty and power. He ain't been to the council, no lawyers, nothing. But he wants to talk. Yeah, go on over here. If you look around, you find yourself in the same place where he has been at and where you have been at all the time. That's sad. Anyway, now a teacher, on the other hand, that's the other kind of leader, okay? On one hand, you got the block of wood. They just point away, do this and do that. I've seen the Moors do that back in the 80s. Told Moors, said, look, you ain't got to pay no taxes. Just do this and do that. Don't pay no shack. And they did that about 5 years until the revenue is laid and cut. And boy, when they opened up the bottom, the Moors fell out of there. And everybody, I'm talking about government, hundreds of them just lost jobs and homes and businesses. Some of them went to jail, except those that were pointing away. And they going like, they put their hands behind their back like they threw the rock, right? But they didn't know who they were. Anyway, a teacher treads the way. Now, this is a teacher. Someone who's already been there, okay? A teacher treads the way on every span of ground. He leaves his footprints clearly cut. This is why I say more. If you want to follow somebody who's been somewhere. Knows Ali, follow his footsteps. Where did he go? What did he do when he got there? Okay? What did he say when he got there? Who did he talk to? Did he talk to Woodrow Wilson? Did he talk to the head of the holy city of Mecca? Did he talk to the head of Cairo, Egypt? Did he talk to the sages of the age? What about at the Pan American Conference? Did he talk to the heads of states of the nations of the West? And what did he say when he got there? Was he a member of the Moorish Science Temple, or was he a Moorish American? Okay? This is what we want to talk about. This lets you know what kind of teacher Noble Drew Ali is, okay? And you have to teach your own the same thing. Because men, they don't, well, they comprehend the inner life of what they see and do. So that's where it is anyway. So I just wanted to speak about these symbolic rites and things. And when they took John to the other symbolic rites as far as cleansing the body and things, he too had to teach the lesson. But he learned it as a Nazarite, okay? And when he learned to teach the man they had to wash, they had to lead the way that your body also is just a symbolic measure. You know, we call it baptism. And I've seen more than certain temples do that too, baptize more in this thing, but based upon this particular ayat. And they had a cleansing rite. They baptize more in the temple. Cleansing, but that's not the cleansing that we're talking about here. Okay? If you really want to cleanse yourself, then you have to go to the inner meaning of that cleansing rite. There's two meanings. You can wash the body, and you still can have a filthy mind. Okay? There's been a whole lot of baptism. I've been in churches that had baptism pools right in the pool bed. And they baptized right in the, you ain't even got to go outside, no river, no nothing. Okay? The thing about it is that there was still, you know, there was a Negro when they dumped him in the water, and they came up, there was a Negro Christian. There was still a Negro. So what kind of cleansing rite is that? Okay? So something is wrong with that picture whenever you are still not free after you're dumped in the water, because somebody did not cleanse the mind of the Negro concept of the falsehood and the foolishness, okay? So we want to, anyway, as the week goes on, we'll get into the Temple of Saqqara and some other lessons that was here dealing with this brother Nazarite. And this is a very sacred order that we have to deal with. And I want to call your attention to this as the week goes on, we'll be more deep into this special chapter. We've been through this chapter all week, okay? Now, as I was saying, I want you to hold on to ayat 5 because the prophets speak about the cause of death are always for the best, and we are solving problems there as well as here. And one is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best, okay? Now, I asked you the question, Moors. Very simply put, have the Moorish Americans found themselves? Okay? That's a straight up question. How did you find yourself? For one thing, you got to find out what in the world is a Moorish American. The only people that can describe a Moorish American is the very first one, the very first patriarch, Noble Drew Ali himself. He was the very first he wasn't the first Moorish American now, because the very first Moorish American came into existence about 21 years or so before Noble Drew Ali was even born. And that was in 1865 when the United States abolished slavery. All those slaves was free then to become a nation of people, returned to the state of nationhood where they were the first enslaved from. Okay? So the Moorish Americans as a people actually spiritually came into existence in 1865. January 15th, you want to get particular about the date. The thing about it is that we want to look at the reason why it is that the Moorish Americans have not done the things that Noble Drew Ali has asked us to do as of today. Noble Drew Ali clearly said, look, Moore, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation, but you must take it in order to save yourself. So a lot of more, they've been saying that and quoting that for years and years. I mean, I've heard at least 40 years. But what does it mean? Because I haven't seen them do it yet, all right? That means that if someone tells you to take something and save yourself with it, it's just like if someone come to you out of the desert somewhere and just say, look, here is, whatever. Here's $1,000. Go and pay your rent with it or something. If they gave it to you, don't question where they got it from, where it came from. Take the $1,000, and you know you're $1,000 behind on your rent, and go pay your rent. Okay? But you got to take the money and go and pay your rent with it. It's up to you. Just because somebody brought it to you, you still have got to carry it out, to do what you're supposed to do with it. Like so, Noble Drew Ali brought you everything it takes to save a nation. But you got to take the things that he brought you. Number one, find out the best way. The way I did is that I looked around to see what all other nations had. Then I looked to see where was mine, that Noble Drew Ali, because he said, and the prophet ain't no lying man, he said he brought it to me. So I got to checking around the globe, and I said, now what does the Chinese got? What is the people of Germany got? What is it? What every nation got? Australia, I went everywhere. What do they all have in common? And it didn't take a lot, because once you hit the encyclopedia, the first thing you're going to see, all of them has got their own flag. Okay? Then you find out they got their own free national name. Okay? And it just goes on and on and on. And then you got to look and say, well, wait a minute. Where's mine? What is mine? Where is mine? Okay? Noble Drew Ali said he brought me everything it takes to save a nation, but I've got to take it. Number one, you got to find out what it is, and then you can take it, okay? What about the free national name, free national constitution, and all of his laws? He gets to describing everything it is that nations have. And he also let you know what ours look like, okay? We was into breaking down the memorandum last week, and I apologize for the latter few days, because I had a trouble condition with my nose and throat, but it's pretty much clearing up now, and so I wasn't able to continue on. But in dealing with the preamble, the Grand National Secretary spoke about this a little earlier, dealing with the NGOs on this memorandum. Now, more, let me tell you something about the difference between a nation and a non-governmental organization. Okay? There is a world of difference. Although there are provisions under the UN Charter to at least hear what it is that NGOs have to say. But you must remember at the same time now, although they will hear what you have to say, NGOs do not hold a seat at the UN. They are not recognized at the UN as a people, okay? And therefore they don't have that much voting power. And the reason why, because NGOs are basically, and should be, nations in the making, okay? That's what it should be. And the reason why I want to describe it that way, because I'm going to read to you the preamble of dealing with the NGO that was actually voted into existence in 92. Well, 91, I think it was, okay? And this was as a result at the conference they had in Rio de Janeiro in South America. And it was an organization put together, all of them, and they put themselves together as a collective known as the NGO, or non-governmental organization, and indigenous peoples. Okay. Now the treaty read like this. The preamble of the treaty says, considering the declaration and documents prepared in numerous indigenous peoples meetings, such as the Paris Declaration 1991 and the Earth Charter of the Indigenous Peoples 1992, where it is stated, we, the indigenous people of the world, since the times of our ancestors, have constructed a culture, a civilization, a history, and a vision of sway with nature. Basically what that means is that you know how to live, how you can sustain yourself. And even if you're living off the ground or the earth, if you are heating yourself with coal and wood, or if you're living with buffalo skins, or whatever the case may be, however that is, if that's your culture, that's what you're doing, and you're fine with that, and you and nature getting along just fine, then leave you the heck alone. That's what it boils out to, okay? So, but there's a process that took place that prevented this from happening. This was by what is called the leading nations of the world. You got those that primarily holding big chairs in the UN, like the United States and Canada, and so forth, and a lot of others, several others. Most of these are European nations, okay? And as a result of that, they have taken the so-called, quote-unquote, third world countries and then put them almost out of extinction, off the map. Like they don't even mean nothing, they don't exist, except for having resorts and islands and, places it's nice to, when you want to go on vacation, okay? Or you want to explore or this kind of thing, all right? Anyway, it goes on, number 2 in the preamble says, this process was interrupted by the invasion of indigenous territories in various parts of the world, which has caused, and this is what the Western world has done with collective of nations, okay, which is called genocide. See if this sounds familiar to you, Moors. These people are called, not the indigenous people, but the other ones, the ones that's running the world now. They're called genocide, negation and destruction of cultures, violation of human rights, and racial discrimination. And this thing sound familiar to you? Okay? At the present time, indigenous people are being affected by the imposition of economic development models by the West. In this context, some non-governmental organizations have imposed their models through different projects, such as contributing to the destruction of environmental and culture of indigenous people. Now, this right here, I'll give you an example of that, is Jamaica. Jamaica just recently got their, should I say, their freedom. Although they do not have a chair at the UN, they're still a recognized government and nation, okay? They was given a 50-year mandate. I think it was back in the 60s, I think. Anyway, and doing that from Britain. And under this 50-year mandate, Jamaica, those who were, at that time, was in Jamaica, was still considered British subjects. Those who were born from that point on, let's just say it was 60, those who were born from 1960 on would be considered Jamaican nationals. And after 50 years of this, that Jamaica should be fully enough populated of its own indigenous people to have themselves their own freedom. And as a result of that, at the end of the 50 Act, it ended before the 50 years was up, and Jamaica obtained its freedom. So they're independent now. Okay. However, Jamaica is still contingent upon the powers and the leadership of superior nations like Britain, the same one that enslaved Jamaica from the get-go. Okay? And in other words, there's not much difference between Jamaica being a government or a country right now than it is a NGO, because it's really not recognized. Okay? Now, that right there what brings us to the modern-day Moorish America. Let's find out what can happen. Remember Jamaica now. Please don't forget Jamaica. Okay, because I want to take it to another level. When the Moorish Americas come into existence as a nation, as a government of people, a constituted people, there's a couple of things going to take place. The first thing going to take place is that if you notice, there's only 2 African countries right now that have treaties with the now established United States. The other countries in Europe that may have a little flating treaty here and there with some parts of South Africa or other places. Well, that's only for the protection of their own people who may still be there as leaders, if you will. Okay? But otherwise than that, the treaty is really virtually meaningless. thing about it is when we, the Moorish Americans, you must remember who we are. If you read the Book of Ali, in the Book of Ali, it lets you know exactly the kingdoms and countries that we founded as the Moorish are people that's made up of, and write this down, what make up the Moorish the Moorish kingdom, okay? Let's just call it the Moorish Empire, for lack of a better word, the dynasty that was built for the days of the pharaohs, okay? Through the permission of Joshua, etc. When we're coming across West Africa, remember we've already established China, Japan, India, etc. Now we're going back to reestablish their first homeland, and that's here in the Americas. So actually it was called a demarcation line called Ethiopia, which divided the continent of Africa from by Egypt. Everything including Egypt to the east was considered the east, and everything west of that demarcation, west of Egypt, was considered west. The western line was developed by then the Moorish, called the Moorish Empire. The Moorish Empire, the Moorish was made of a collective or committee that's spelled M-O-M-I-T-Y, committee of cultures. These cultures were known as the Hammatites, the Moabites, and the Canaanites. These three collectively are known as the Moorish, who later established what is known today as the Moorish Empire. The Moorish Empire included every country, family, kingdom, tribe, government, nation, etc., established west of Egypt, including every nation in the northwest, southwest Africa, Tunis, Tripoli, Algiers, Morocco, Algeria, Congo, Ghana, etc., Togo, right on down, okay? Including all of the Atlantic Ocean, including all of the Atlantic islands. That includes everything from Haiti to Cuba, from, you name it, Bermuda to Jamaica, etc., all of them, okay? All these are part of the Moorish Empire. That includes also the continental Americas, that is North, Central, and South America, as it is called today. These continents are now occupied by Canada, Canada, the United States, Mexico, and then you go on down to the Central and South American countries, okay? Nevertheless, all of this is known as the Moorish Empire, sometimes called the Mexium. Now, the thing about it is that all of these countries and governments have their history, and they know who their daddy is. They know who their mother and father is. But their mother and father has been over here on vacation. Well, let's call it slavery. Okay? And so when we stand up and become the teachers that we are, in other words, we're not being a block of wood, not telling somebody what to do, telling somebody where we are. This guy, no. Being the leaders and the gods that we are, then they will also recognize us as being the parents and founders of every country I just named. Okay? That's every country throughout Northwest and Southwest Africa, everything west, including all the Americas, all the way to the Pacific. Okay? Including, if you want to go that far, the Hawaiian Islands. Now, the reason why I want to bring this to your attention is because once we, the first thing that we're going to do is we establish ourselves with those kingdoms and tribes and nations and governments because that we have founded along the way prior to the advent of our enslavement that was supported by the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims. Okay? Or should I say, Queen Isabella, Ferdinand, Muhammad III out of Morocco, and some Jews, okay? So what survivors of us was used to start or begin the West African slave trade. And that lasted until today. Okay? It's up to us to put an end to slavery by announcing ourselves. Let me tell you something about slavery, Moors, in case you don't know. Slavery is one good thing about slavery here in the West. It united us as a people. If you had Negro, black, and color on your birth certificate, it doesn't matter who you were, okay? If you were born here in the United States under the 14th Amendment, you were Moorish American. And it united you as such. So I know there's a lot of us. So I was here. I'm indigenous to the. You indigenous all you want to be, but if you have not declared yourself a nation of people, 60 million strong, you're still a slave. You can call yourself whatever you want to call you. All you want to. It don't make no difference. There's only one way out from this system, and you got to be a people, one people, under bearing one free national name, under one government, one constitution, in order to do it. And guess what? When you do go back to Africa, and they recognize you, and they will, because they know their history. Don't say anybody's forgotten us, because they haven't. We just got to identify ourselves. Then they all will become allies to the Moorish American. Okay? Every last one of them. So I asked you this question. What do you think the United States is going to do? And we'll entertain this question a little later on in the week. What do you think the United States is going to do with the Moorish American, all 60 million of us? I'm not forgetting about the concentration camps, but that's not for the Moors, not for the Moorish Americans. They're there. 800 concentration camps, 200,000 chattel cars on a railroad track with nothing but shackles and chains for human cargo. It's all there. Okay, disposable coffins that hold up to 3 bodies. Yeah, it's all there. But it's not for the Moorish Americans. At least those that claim themselves as Moorish Americans. Okay? So anyway, I'll now open up the floor for any question and answer in regards to our subject chapter and our subject matter dealing with the United Nations. And we are looking forward to having our classes for the rest of the week. It's been a